Radio, 24 hours, always nourishing our souls. We feel so blessed to be here on this very beautiful, sunshiny day, celebrating God's love through Andre Lewis's beautiful account of life. Whoa, in the spiritual realm. Let me do it this way. Through the book Liberation. This book, dear friends, is really unique. Why do we say that? Because we get a first-hand account not only of the higher spheres of spirituality, but of the lower spheres as well. So we understand our own trajectory of eternal progress, and we can find even more signs of divine mercifulness. So we are very grateful to Andre Lewis and our beloved Chico Xavier for their partnership in the good as we ourselves free our souls from the shackles of the past. So this is a beautiful therapeutic study where the mentors of Kardec Radio invest in our liberation for immortality and to help us attune with the higher spheres. Here comes our beloved sunshine shining from coast to coast. Hello, sunshine.
Hello, dear Carol. Nice to be with you.
Nice to have you shining through.
Yes.
Our
Teamwork
dear,
effort, right?
yes, our dear Rihanna is already here with us.
Oh,
Hello,
hello, Rihanna.
Rihanna.
Thank you.
Big kiss to you. Thank you for shining through as well. We have even more sunshine and
Yes.
beautiful sunshine. Could you please guide us in an opening prayer as you let your light shine?
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, sunshine.
Yes. So we invite you to close your eyes if you can, and let us consciously connect our hearts and minds with God, divine providence, who is enveloping us in love and light. And let us also connect with our minds and hearts with our dear beloved Jesus, our guide and model, the most perfect human being to have ever walked the earth. And we're also, with gratitude, connecting with Mother Mary and the mentors of this group, our own personal mentors, and we're welcoming all the spirits who are present, learning alongside with us. It is with immense gratitude that we're meeting and gathering this morning, ready to learn new unprecedented lessons, lessons that will help us to understand our human condition better, and we will be learning new techniques and strategies and insights about how we can align ourselves better with God's will, releasing old habits and coming closer to God. And with this, we kindly ask for permission to open this morning's gathering, and so be it.
So be it. We feel God's
Thank
love, and God's love feels good. Thank you,
you.
sunshine. Could you
Yes.
please guide us in a summary of the highlights of the chapter, please, sunshine?
Yes, Carol. So this is a very exciting chapter because we will be learning a lot and new things that most of us we never even thought about. We didn't even know it existed. And it is the continuation. We remember that last chapter was a lecture, and this time it's Instructor Gubbio, Andre Louise, and Eloy, who talked to Instructor Gubbio to get more ideas, to learn more about why dark spirits are who they are and why they're hanging around the earth. So it starts with this chapter. We're not going to read it all, so we're picking out some highlights. So the chapter starts with a description of the evil spirits, their characteristics, and the fact that they gather together in colonies and even have rulers. They have managers. Can we believe that? So this is one of the unprecedented pieces of information. And they existed since when? Since when have these colonies existed? What do we think?
Good question.
Right?
Right.
So the instructor Gubbio gives us the answer. He says they have existed ever since humans have existed. Can we believe that? It is an expression of our disobedience and rebelliousness. And ever since earthly intelligences existed, these colonies have existed. So this is pretty amazing. So this is millennia. And we still have them. So what are the characteristics of these so-called evil or ignorant spirits? And Gubbio gives us a good insight. He says they're often very intelligent. They abuse their free will. And by abuse, he means using it to do evil. They feel miserable by nature. They're not happy spirits. They're ignorant. They're often wicked. They, believe it or not, feel ashamed of themselves. So a lot of them actually have the consciousness to know that they're not on the right path, but they're not ready to make a shift. They're domineering in their roles. So whatever they want to impose, they're very domineering, quite aggressive in their approach. They're all very organized. Of course, you know, they're intelligent, so they get organized. They have their own hierarchy. They have no idea about the higher regions than the physical sphere. So they're not acknowledging that there are higher spheres. They basically just look horizontally or down. And they have no idea about the beauty of higher life. Absolutely none. And often they're lazy and impenitent. And they do not like to work on their own readjustment. And that's like a package, right? If we don't recognize that there is a better place than we live in, and we're kind of lazy and ignorant, so then, you know, we're stuck. We stay where we are. So now, Andre Louise is curious. It's like, what's the reason why these colonies exist? And Gubbio comes to the rescue. He says, it's primarily, and this is really to take note, so to really pause and breathe into this, why do these colonies primarily exist? What is the main cause? It is destructive passions that these spirits harbor. So they're passionate, but their passions are not tamed. So he says, and then because they have these passions, due to the law of affinity, they band together. We know that as we think and feel, we emit. And as we emit, we always surely attract. So consequently, they come together in groups. And then they attract, they feel attracted to us incarnates as well, because they're hanging around Earth. And so if we indulge in the same passions that they indulge in, that is perfect for them. And now they have another door opened and they can influence us through our minds. They whisper not such good ideas into our minds. But the core reason is the passions. So now we may want to ask, what's wrong with passions? Are all passions evil? And actually, Alan Kardec wondered about the same thing, and he asked that question in the Spirits book. We can find it. It's question 907. Are all passions evil? And the answer is no, not really. It is really just the definition of passions he gives, the spirits on high give us, is that they are excesses brought about by our will. And now the question is, what are we going to do with that, right? So then Alan Kardec is wondering, what are the limits of our passions before we actually cause harm? So in other words, passions are really good. Passions are positive if we direct them via our will towards the good. Because if I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to be on cardiac radio and to get ready and prepare myself, and every morning I make God's to-do list and I feel passionate about it, that's good, isn't it? So if I channel my passions in that direction to be of service and to educate myself, perfect, gets me closer to God. It raises me up. But if I wake up in the morning and all I can think about is that it's evening and I need to drink and where's the next big steak I need to eat, and we're not critical. It's just, it's a little bit more a direction for us to animalize ourselves. And that is also the spirits on high point of view. They say, what is the test whether our passions are still within the realm of the good or they've deviated towards the so-called evil? What is the test? What do we think? Well, the test is if we injure ourselves or others, then it's not good anymore. Then we have used our passions towards damage. That means we've become ignorant. And at that very moment, we need to rein in those wild horses, our passions, and say, wait a minute, I better use my willpower towards the good. And what is the most powerful remedy for us to use our willpower towards the good? Self-denial. That's what the spirits on high teach us. Isn't it beautiful?
Beautiful.
So we need to channel our passions via our will towards the good, practicing self-denial. Right, Carol?
Right, Sunshine, beautifully said. And we may be asking ourselves, as you speak about the will, Sunshine, we may be asking ourselves, so am I a victim? Because you described the spirits giving us suggestions. And we may wonder, so am I a victim? So maybe I don't feel good or I made XYZ mistakes accidentally because this spirit influenced me. Aha! It's the spirit's fault. You influenced me. Now we have someone to point the finger towards, right? If we take the victim stance. But Sunshine gave us the password to enter God's network, which is goodwill. If we enter this password of goodwill, we realize that it's not the spirit's fault that they may influence us, but it's rather how we direct our will. So, as Sunshine said, we have the plugs for the good or the not so good choices. If the spirits enter our network, it's because we give them the password. Let's think of our homes. We have been using computers a whole lot lately. So our networks are usually secured and locked if we look in our computer settings. How can any person enter our home network if the network is secured and locked? How? They must have the password. It's the same process with the spiritual realm, either the higher or the lower one. They can only enter our network if we give them the password. So we have good news for all of us. We are the ones in charge of our own spiritual network. Why do I say that? Why do we say that? Because Sunshine beautifully said the exact same thing. Why do we say that as a team on Kardec Radio? Because we are blessed by God to be co-creators. So we create our password and thus we decide who is deserving of our password, who we are going to share our password with. So, therapeutic question for us, number one of many. Who have we been sharing our soul password with? Who has been entering our network? Sunshine, Andre Lewis, and Mentor Gubbio are going to explain to us the categories of spirits who may want to enter our network. But the question is, who are we allowing in? Who are we sharing the password of our souls with? That is the question, right,
Yes,
Sunshine?
yes, Kara, brilliant.
And
And
before we continue, I would just like to say hi to Susanna Anneli. Hello,
hello,
Susanna.
Susanna.
And
Thank you for
our
joining.
beautiful Daisy Gallen.
Hi,
Big
Daisy.
kiss. Sorry,
Thank you for
Sunshine, I
joining.
interrupted you. It's my
Oh,
Brazilian kissy side.
it's beautiful. It's
I'm addicted
perfect.
to kisses. I'm
It's
sorry, guys.
beautiful.
Go ahead, Sunshine. I'm so sorry. I
Yeah,
interrupted.
no, no, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much for elaborating on that and for us to ponder on this therapeutic question that is very important because that's really what it is. We need to feel what we're learning, applying it to our own lives. So now, as the next step, we are wondering what is the purpose of these dark armies, and Andre Louise, of course, is wondering about that. And so, what is the purpose of these colonies? What is their purpose? So, the answer that we're getting is that the main purpose is, and you're going to be so surprised, to conserve the mental backwardness of us human beings. Can you believe that? To,
Whoa.
to keep us stuck, to keep Earth under their tyranny. That is their goal because they are stuck. They don't want anyone else to advance. Plus, remember, they don't have any notion of any higher realms. So, misery likes company, right? As we say. So, like attracts like. So, again, it comes back to what you said, Carol. Who do we allow in? Because they're just waiting by the sidelines for an open door. And the open door is in our control. So this is really, really important to realize that there's millions of these spirits only waiting to enter our lives, our homes, our families, it's our cars, anywhere, our garages,
Wow, you're taking
backyards,
it up to another level, Sunshine. Thank
right?
you.
Yeah, yeah, really. So Andre Louise is surprised about these evil activities and these purgatories and hellish regions. And he's surprised that they are managed by these evil groups. He's over and over again during this chapter saying, it's just so surprising to me that this is happening, that this even exists. And then he says, these are the pivotal questions that we now get answered in the rest of the chapter. So here are the two key questions. Why can't discarnate backward legions see that they're fighting a lost cause? Why can't these groups not see that this is just not going to work out long term? It's a lost cause. And the other question he asks is, why do we incarnates and the discarnates stay bound to lower spheres, transgressing God's laws daily? Why do discarnates transgress God's laws daily and stay stuck in these lower spheres? Why do we incarnates get stuck there? Right?
Good
And this
question.
is right. That's another therapeutic question. Are
Right.
we part of this? And
Right.
what parts of our lives are we still stuck to in lower spheres? Where do we still open the door and let these spirits in?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I
Right.
mean, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? So Andre Luis, actually Gubbio, Instructor Gubbio will help us out with a beautiful explanation. So he further elaborates. So why is this happening? Even though we are blessed by a flood of sunlight pouring down on us incessantly from the infinite. And it's right there in front of us. So if we kind of imagine the picture that the sun is God's eye shining on us day and night, pretty much somewhere on the earth, right? Always there, indiscriminately blessing us with the light. And even though we're surrounded and bathed in light, and even if the clouds are there, the sun is there, we're still choosing to focus on the darkness. Why, right? We don't have the answer
Excellent
yet.
question. Why? Excellent question.
Right? I mean, it's just,
Right.
furthermore, he says, so we have this beautiful, this light blessing in front of us, on us, around us, in us, everywhere, and we ignore it. Furthermore, we know that our physical existence is brief, right? We all know it, but somehow we blank it out. We we don't want to face death. We don't want to think about it. Oh no, our culture is just very averse to it, right? And we disdain the sublime wisdom with our criminal indifference. We just defocus, we minimize the screen. God's screen is always minimized, right?
Right.
Right? It's
Right.
like, oh, the next car and the profession and money and this, that, and the other, and the next vacation. But God's screen is just tiny, tiny at the bottom of our computer screen, if at all. Sometimes it's not even there, right? Then we need to think about our own sublimation. We don't. We just don't think about it. We go through the evolutionary stages of irrationality for millennia, Gubbio teaches us.
Wow.
We're just, right? I mean, it's ouch. It's like hurtful to hear it, but I'm sure we may see still traces in our own lives, right? And we're still displaying aspects of complete ignorance. So now we're coming closer to the answer. Gubbio is listening to all this and saying, yeah, it's unbelievable. Considering all of this, and we're still focusing on the darkness, on the low, right? And opening doors to the spirits on low, so to speak, not on high, but on low.
Right. Good point, Sunshine.
So then Gubbio helps us out a little bit. So now he says that it's related to our minds. This whole debacle is related to our minds, because the minds of both the incarnates, us incarnates, as well as the discarnates, is a psychic center, he says. It's a psychic center of attraction and repulsion. It's a magnetic center. It has magnetic qualities. And we know the mirror of the mind, the mirror of the mind. In other words, the mind emits, we think and we emit, and as we emit, we attract, like a boomerang, always comes back to us. So this is what is the psychic center. We're law of attraction. Whatever we're emitting, we're attracting. It's just going around and around. And the mind is continuously generating mental energies. There's never a time when we don't think, really. I don't think, right?
Right.
It's always working. And then who is in charge of our minds?
The neighbor.
You're right.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, the neighbor is called the will.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely. Yes.
it's the will. So our will is the manager of our minds. And that's something unprecedented that Emmanuel already taught us in Thought and Life, right? And here Gubbio is actually mirroring this to us as well. The mind is controlling our minds. When we're not choosing to use our will, what are we? We become pawns of our surrounding. Right there is an open door. If we're not choosing to direct our will, then we become pawns. And if we choose to use our will, then the big question is, for what? Right? What are we choosing?
Question. Yeah.
But which way are we directing our will? And yeah, what do you think, Carol? The will.
Yeah, you just asked us probably one of the most powerful questions of our entire reincarnation because we are reincarnated to learn how to direct our will. And Andre Lewis, Sunshine, as you know, in another book named Mechanism of Mediumship, he explains to us that there's no neutral position. Like in a car, when we are changing gears, there is the neutral position, right? If we have a car, we know what that means. But in the car of the mind, there is no neutral. God didn't design the car, the engine of our minds that way. Andre Lewis beautifully explains to us that there is either the destructive engine or the constructive engine. Oh, but Carol, I'm not doing anything. Allan Kardec in the Spirit's book asked that question. How about if we don't do much good, but we also don't do much evil? And we discussed this before in this program. The mentors that work under the Christ explain to us that we are responsible also for the good that we don't do. So it's good for us to analyze our own selves because self knowledge leads to liberation. So it's good for us to take note of the quality of our thoughts so we can analyze which current we are about to enter or we enter most often. And Rihanna is saying what we give water to grows. You are right, Rihanna, as Sunshine always says on the program, and I think it's really beautiful that she says that our thoughts are like seeds that we plant in the garden of our mind. So, what seeds have we been planting? It's a good exercise for us. Perhaps we can all do it in the next 24 hours to write down the three most common thoughts and feelings that we experience on a daily basis recurrently, because then we have a concrete measure of what seeds we are planting in the garden of our minds. And we may say, oh my gosh, I'm scared, I don't want to do it because I don't know what's in here. I'm kind of scared. And we understand, but the spirit mentors are always ready to support us. So, how can we soothe ourselves as we do this inner journey? The spirit mentors have taught us recently to use the hygiene kit for immortality. What's the hygiene kit for immortality? Is the mask of joy, the gloves of goodwill, and the Lysol of love. So if we feel like there are little spots that need to be polished, we get the little Lysol of love here and rub it on. And of course, the Lysol of
That's
love
beautiful.
smells delicious. So we are going to be perfumed with love here. So if we encounter a little part of ourselves that hasn't been fully enlightened yet, we put our hands in our hearts and we say, thank you, God, for showing me this little area of myself where your light can shine. So I'm going to put the Lysol of love here and visualize light coming through because, as Sunshine beautifully said, there is always light available to us. So we can visualize a little ray of sunshine together with the Lysol of love, cleansing our souls so we can direct ourselves towards God and plant more seeds of love in the garden of our minds. So if we find little areas that need to be polished, big deal. That's why we are on earth. So congratulations, check. You are in the school of earth and check, you are learning. So it's great if we find things inside of ourselves that we need to polish. It means that we are doing our spiritual homework, which is what we are on earth for. It's part of the earth curriculum for us to study ourselves and polish ourselves. So if we find areas to do so, great. It means that we are being good students and we are learning the learning objectives in the curriculum of the earth. So, yay for us in the school of life, right, Sunshine?
Perfect, Carol, and I love the picture of this kit, of the sanitation kit. I will
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
I
And
will
that's,
write it here so everyone
oh, please,
can use
yes,
it. It's a hygiene kit for
kit.
immortality.
Yes, that is an amazing picture because that really, your kid is an example of how we can use our will for the good. That is employing, it's an educated mind going, directing towards the good. And we know, Alan Kardec asked this question in the Spirit's book, can all humans transcend evil? And the answer is yes, very easily. But most of us don't direct our will in that direction. We don't use our willpower in that way. And that's the answer of the spirits on high in that regard. Now, directing our willpower has another side, and that's our physical body. And what Gubbio is explaining to us in this chapter is that if we direct our mental energies towards certain dark loops, and also, let's say we think every day cancer, I'm scared of cancer, I don't want to get cancer, and we read everything out cancer, cancer, and we're just emitting cancer all the time. We are also, as a result of our mind emitting, we can't have the opportunity to attract certain diseases to us. And he says, but even so, a lot of illnesses are due to expiations that we need to undo past wrongs. It is, however, that the mind can, in those cases where it's inevitable that we get sick, the mind can support us very positively in not getting sick, maybe, or less sick, or having the opportunity to actually transcend the illness. So it is not only important, in general for our lives, but it's also very important for our health that we learn to use the hygiene kit for immortality.
Right, yes.
It's
And
our,
it's
our
free, and we don't have to
that's
go to the
free.
supermarket and be in line. And it's
It is
great. It's
brilliant.
available for everyone.
We definitely love it.
Yeah,
It's absolutely wonderful. Thanks for writing it down.
of course.
Yeah, yeah. So then he further explains, and this is all still, let's keep in mind, Andre Louise asked this question: how can it be possible that incarnates and discarnates get stuck in these dark places and don't advance under all these positive influences and exposures we have, right?
Mhm.
So he now explained to us it's linked to the mind, it's to a will that's either not developed or not directed correctly. Then he continues on, gives us another reason why this is happening. He says the mind is caught between superior and inferior forces continuously. And the goal, our overall goal, is to spiritually perfect ourselves. So our mind and will, the goal is to direct it increasingly with the higher forces to the superior, connect with the superior forces. That's our goal. And this whole process is under the guidance of the will, right? So then he says the inferior forces have two doorways within our own being, our own bodies here.
Mhm.
The inferior forces have two entryways. One is the sexual center, and the other one is the abdominal center. So, in other words, if we have an urge to hold on to emotions, desires, pleasures, and primitive influences, we open these doors. So, if we constantly obsess over sex, and it's got to be constant,
Mhm.
in so many different forms. It could be on the internet, could be with other people. It doesn't matter what form or shape it takes. If an imbalance is being formed in that center, boom, we're opening those doors and we're letting these dark forces come in and attach themselves to us and feed us more information in that direction. They stir up our passions. And the same with our abdominal region. Why the abdominal region? Because of food, for example, right? I mean, if I have to have 3 steaks a day, it materializes me more. It attaches me more to matter. Plus, of course, the killing of the animal. It's a whole big package deal. If I need to drink alcohol every day, actually, it's in Missionaries of the Light where Andre Louise explains to us of this one young man who is drinking so much, how his whole abdominal center looks like there were nasty bugs attached to it, right? It's like spirit bugs.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a mess. So anyway, those are the two open doors we can create to the lower forces, to the inferior forces. And then what are the two ones that are most likely to connect us to the higher forces? Well, number one is the mind, and number two is the heart. So the heart and the mind, that's why we say, let's close our eyes and open our hearts and minds, right? And connect with
Correct.
God. We're
That's
not
right.
saying let's connect our abdominal and sexual area with God. Right?
Right.
So right there, we already intuitively say that, right? And now we've learned it. So this is really important. So we can now actively observe whether we will be opening doors to connect with the higher forces or opening doors to connect with the lower forces.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
then he, right? Did you want to say
right.
something?
No,
Yeah.
no, go ahead,
Yeah.
Sunshine. Yes.
Yeah. So then we go into another aspect he brings to us, and
Mm-hmm.
that is our entrenched mental attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
So now he starts to talk about habits. All of this happens also because we're habitual beings. We like to just, as long as it's not pinching us, we keep going on the same road.
Mm-hmm.
We're just boom, 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 we're
Mm-hmm.
attached, right?
Right.
And he says it's for thousands of years. One reason is our actually, well, you will be all surprised. He says for thousands of years, we have been clouded, our minds have been clouded by what? By theological arguments, he says. This is not me speaking. This is coming straight from Gubbio via Andre Luis.
Mm-hmm.
So one part that played a big role in us is our theological indoctrinations that have not served us. And then he says humans are addicted to safeguard external resources. So now we imprison our minds on fragile, on fears. We
Mm-hmm.
hold on to the airplane seat, thinking that the airplane seat during a turbulence is going to help us survive. That's
Mm-hmm.
literally what we do in our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Right.
hold on to money, we hold on to our homes, we hold on to so many things that are just illusions
Mm-hmm.
that don't give us anything, right? And doesn't really, and then of course we focus on our selfish personality. We're addicted to selfishness and pride. So
Mm-hmm.
all of this keeps us in this loop of lower forces, connected to the lower forces. And then habit. Habit is something that we're not only creating in our own lives in this one incarnation, but also we bring habits from previous incarnations. And the one person, the one thing that really helps us to break out of this is to connect more deeply from our heart with our minds with Jesus, of course, because he is our guide and model who showed us how to be always God connected, always aligning his will with God's will, which is really our goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
He modeled to us simplicity. He gifted us with the Beatitudes, which really contain the whole code of conduct for us humans in the most perfect way. He gifted us with the Lord's Prayer. He taught us how to be more fraternal, how to be charitable. He incited us to educate ourselves and to be more service oriented. And all of this helps us to break out of our habits. Don't you think, Carol?
Yes, so beautifully said, Sunshine. And before we move forward with our discussion of habits, I would like to read a question that Rihanna is kindly posing for all of us. Rihanna asks, can fear also open up for those forces? Thank you, Rihanna, for asking such a key question because of the pandemic. Many of us may be feeling fear because we are globally dealing with uncertainties. So, this may be a common denominator for a lot of us on Earth at this moment. So, your question is very pertinent for all of us. And I'm going to ask Andre Lewis to kindly answer your question for us. In the book Nosso Lar, André Lewis describes a pandemic of fear from the spiritual realm. He wrote the book No Solar, he psychographed the book No Solar during the Second World War. And he describes to us in that book that the entire humanity was experiencing so much fear that the fear was spreading through in the spiritual realm as well. And Andre Lewis describes a meeting with the mentors from on high, explaining to them that they were going to open schools in the beyond to train the scarlet spirits to not attune with fear, because in the words of the mentor spirits, fear is a paralyzing force. So one may be asking, and I often ask myself too, what is the vaccine against fear? Many of us, rightly so, at this very moment in time, May 16th, 2020. This is a historical date because this is an unprecedented situation, right? Many of us on May 16th, 2020 are asking, when are we going to get the vaccine for the COVID? When? So vaccines are in our minds right now. But if we look at our lives from an immortal perspective, where is the vaccine for fear? This is a vaccine that will go beyond the pandemic, and it's a vaccine that can immunize us for immortality. So, where is the quote unquote antidote? Where can I get a vaccine? I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. We have the flu shot, but we also want to take the fear shot, right? Where do we go? Which pharmacy do we go? Do we go to Walgreens, CVS? Where do we go? Believe it or not, we have to go to God's pharmacy. And you may say, but Carol, but Sunshine, where is God's pharmacy? Can you give me the GPS, please? And yes, we can, because we are putting in this GPS in our cars of our souls as well. And the GPS is Jesus Christ, our Master's Beatitudes, as Sunshine so beautifully put it. So when we go to God, the gospel, according to Spiritism, is God's pharmacy. There, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Model, gave us all the remedies. So there we find, let's list our remedies, because we are going to make a cocktail, shake it up, right? Put it in a injection format and take the shot. We're going to take the shot today because we don't want to be held by fear anymore. So let's write down the prescription and make our concoction here. What is the prescription? If we open the gospel, which is God's pharmacy, we will find the remedy of faith. Jesus Christ, our Master, tells us that faith is the mother of all virtues. So we put it there. Let's imagine a vial here, and we are entering God's pharmacy, and on the shelf there we see faith labeled. Choop, put it there. Choop, choop, faith. What else can we put there? Love, but not any kind of love, although love in all its forms is sublime. We now want to hold on to the ultimate source of love, the one that is immutable. And which one is this? This is God's love. That one is the only immutable source of love there is, because we are facing fear. We need certainty. So let's put in a big dose of God's love there, right? And then what else do we need? Let's keep looking. on our shelves here. The pharmacy of God is endless, so we have a lot of searching to do. What else do we need? We need meekness. Choop, put it there. Because if we have serenity, we have then the discernment to believe in God. In order to believe in God, we need serenity. So meekness is part of it. And then the last one that we can put in our concoction, unless Sunshine has other ones that she would like to add, the last one that I would like to add is the remedy of resignation. Right there. Shoop. So we have our prescription consists of faith, check, we got it. God's love, check, we got it. Resignation, check, we got it. Meekness, check, we got it. Would you like to add anything else to our prescription, Sunshine?
I think, Carol,
Or do you think
you're the most perfect God's pharmacist. It's
oh, I
perfect.
wish all of us can be God's pharmacists. So now we have to shake it up, right? Because we want the concoction to be really strong. Shake it. Shake it up. Now the vial is filled with hearts, of course.
Pink hearts.
The vial I see is filled with hearts. Mine are pink. Yours can be whatever color you like. And then we take our fear shot. That's it. Now we are spiritually immunized. And daily we may need to take this vaccine daily because of the mental darts that are coming our way through social media, through television, through the newspapers, through the mental emanations of the earth on a collective level. So we may need to immunize ourselves daily, but the good news, as Sunshine said, is that we are all God's pharmacists. God's pharmacy is open 24/7.
Yeah.
We don't need to leave our homes. And the best part, it's free.
Exactly. It's
Right?
perfect. Just like God is
Yeah,
perfect.
God
Right?
is so abundant. So
Yeah.
God is constantly freely giving to us. So it's up to us to take it. And we have God's permission to take it. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
God is saying, I'm here. Please take my embrace. God is saying, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me.
Yeah.
The question is, are we remembering to pick God? Because God is already there for us.
Yes.
Right, Sunshine?
It's so beautiful, Carol. I love it. And
I'm going to write the prescription here so we don't forget.
Yes, no, we need to.
So we can take our fear injection every day, right?
Yes. And
Thank you, Rihanna, for asking this very important question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rihanna. Because, once we get this shot and we give us booster shots every day, then we don't even have to worry about an external vaccination anymore because we have faith. We're God connected. Then we can release all of that, and that will keep us healthier, and our spirit attachments will change. Because things who are fearful are of a lot lower vibrational nature, so we don't want them. So your God's vaccine is God sent. Thank you, Carol.
Yes, thank you, Sunshine.
Yes.
Yes.
So here goes Scooby again. So now we know that we're all stuck. That so many spirits are stuck. They're living in colonies. They're organized, attaching themselves to us, and our minds are at fault because the will isn't educated, and we're caught between the higher and lower forces, and we have different entryways, both for the higher as well as for the lower rounds. And so then he says, if through the millennia, when through the millennia, some certain spirits finally are waking up, they transcended their passions, they started to transcend their habits, then the mechanism is as follows, and this is also unprecedented.
Yeah.
What the higher realms are doing is they are using a collaboration of the higher spirits with the lower spirits
Wow.
to help the spirits, the lower spirits, to ascend. Now, this is so amazing,
Wow.
right? I mean, just
Wow.
think about it. And so much for us to hopefully emulate in our own lives, to remember that when we, as we are ascending on the ladder towards God, that it's not a solitary move. It's really for us, it's our duty to help our brothers and sisters who may not quite have reached the same ladder, the same step on the ladder as we have. So it is always based on teamwork. It's always worked on based on collaboration. So this is really, really important to note. So they're making use of the already transmuted sentiments of some spirits who have already transmuted their sentiments to help those who are still stuck. So they're basically following the maxim, he says, Gubbio says, helping and be helped, giving and receive. And they call that the process of progress. So it's entirely and completely based on Jesus's teachings, how he
Yes.
modeled to
Yes.
us how to be. And that is by giving, we receive.
Yes.
It's just like the mind emits and attracts. We give and we receive. And when we're caught in a negative loop and we're feeling sorry for ourselves, the best thing is to break out, to look for others who we can be of service to. Because that,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
so beautiful, Sunshine.
Yeah,
That is
that's what
also part of
vision.
our vaccine.
Yes,
Service for others. Beautiful.
yes,
That is in God's pharmacy as well.
yes.
Charity, putting love into action.
Service, exactly.
Beautiful, Sunshine. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, thank you, Professor Gubbio.
Ah, yes, Professor Guvio. Thank you
Good.
for teaching all of us. It's beautiful that he asks the very questions that we ourselves have
Amazing.
in mind.
Yes,
And
Andre
that,
Luis is
as you
perfect.
said, Sunshine, even when we visit the lower zones through Andre Lewis's eyes, we see God's mercy
Yes,
because God is helping us to inner cleanse ourselves so that we can reach the higher spheres.
yes.
So it's beautiful how God's goodness shines.
Yes, and inciting us to help the brothers who were not quite there yet through
Hmm.
collaboration,
Yes,
cooperation. It's and
yes.
he's speaking to the next part of the last part of the chapter, which
Hmm.
brings an answer to the question: why does God allow this anomaly? Actually, Andre
Could you
Luis.
please guide us into that, Sunshine?
Yeah, and so why does God allow such an anomaly?
Mm-hmm.
Those are Andre Luis's words. And what does he
Mm-hmm.
mean by anomaly? By
Mm-hmm.
anomaly, he means those colonies of the evil managed by rulers of the evil that
Mm-hmm.
latch themselves on to us incarnates on earth, who have and share the same sentiments, the same illusions, the same rebelliousness, the same selfishness, the same sentiments that they have, and they are populating our home. So, why
Mm-hmm.
does God allow all of this? And the answer is twofold. One item you already said, Carol, which is
Oh,
beautiful.
uh-huh.
Love. Yes,
Uh-huh.
love.
Yes.
But why is it loving that God allows that? Well, the first step is divine justice. It's divine justice. Remember, in the first chapter, we Gubi, actually the other guy, forgot his name, the instructor of Gubi.
Eloy?
No, the
No.
instructor of Gubi.
Flacos?
Yes, I
Flacos?
think so. Yes,
Mentor Flacos. Yeah.
exactly. He taught us that God uses it's like a homeopathic remedy, like
Mm-hmm.
cures like. So, in
Mm-hmm.
other words, when a diamond is really rough and dirty, another diamond is required to cleanse each other. So, divine justice, which is what God gifts us with,
Mm-hmm.
means that He allows these anomalies to happen, these colonies,
Mm-hmm.
because through collaboration, and rubbing up against each other, because like attracts each other, right? We're all
Mhm.
like-minded
Right?
living together. So they all rub up against each other, cleaning each other, because little by little this whole process opens the sentiments of the spirits and us incarnates, because we kind of suffer from each other's lower vibrations. And then once we feel and we learn that in heaven and hell, once we open our hearts, like André Louis did in Nos Solar. Remember when he was in the umbral and finally he was tired of being surrounded by the like-minded dark spirits, and he prayed fervently. That's when the helpers, when divine love showed up in form of higher spirits.
Yes.
So why does he allow it? Because it's God allows it because his method is divine justice and love, and it's foolproof because we learn by law of cause and effect, right?
Yes, right,
It's
sunshine.
like the most amazing, most effective way to grow
Yeah,
up, right?
yes. And you know, you were saying it so beautifully that a kind of funny metaphor came into my mind. It's like when we are doing laundry, right? We
Yes,
put the colored items together and the white items together.
exactly.
And how do they get cleaned? Not by us, but by the laundry machine, the washer. They get spinned all
Yeah, they rub
around
against each
and
other, right?
rub against each other. And when I'm doing my laundry here, I can even hear the noise. It goes, and I'm
Right?
like,
Exactly.
Mamma mia, what is happening there? And then
Yeah.
when the cycle finishes and I pick up the clothes, it's beautifully clean and it smells so good and it's ready
Mhm.
for reuse. So this is like the laundry of the soul, right? We rub
Exactly.
ourselves together and we go through the same spin cycle
Yes,
so that
exactly.
we come out clean, not only for ourselves, but for the community around us. So not only are we as individual spirits empowered, but other spirits that are part of that same community are empowered with us. So it's really beautiful how God operates the laundry of the soul. It's really beautiful.
And then once we're rubbed up and cleaned up, as you
Yeah,
said, we
yeah,
go out and then we help our community also
yeah,
go. And in the spirit realms, now the spirits who are rubbed up and cleaned, went
yes,
through the laundry
exactly.
over millennia, it sometimes takes,
Yeah,
then they go back into these colonies and
yeah,
little by little help the other spirits to open them up to
yeah.
God.
And
And
be, yeah,
and Andre Luis calls, or Gubbio calls, that those are the vanguards of Christ. It's such a
yes, they
beautiful word.
truly are. And
They
because
are
they
the
went
vanguards of Christ.
through the laundering process, so to speak,
Yes,
they
yes,
understand what it is. And
yes,
because they understand what it is, they can reach out for
yes.
the others who are in the spin cycle all
So,
the more beautifully. So God is so merciful that God allows
so
us
beautiful.
to teach one another in his name. It reminds me of the preface, of the book Paul and Stevens, where Emmanuel says that workers of the Christ on earth are like his arms and his legs and his mind in action. So it's really beautiful. That's how divine justice works.
Yes,
Others operate as Christ's arms and Christ's legs and Christ's mind and reach out for one another. It's so
yeah,
beautiful, isn't it?
it is.
Time.
So that kind of completes our chapter. So we really learned, how these colonies form, who is in these colonies, law of lower vibration,
Yes.
and then how they impact each other, how they impact us, what we can do to misalign ourselves with them, because that's what we
Yes,
want to do. And
yes,
as we grow up, we hopefully help our neighbors, love your neighbors as yourself, as Jesus told us, so that
exactly.
we can become too vanguards of Christ. Right,
Yes, so
girl?
be it.
Yeah.
That is like a
Thank
prayer
you.
for
Such
us,
a
sunshine, so beautifully. And so we would like to finalize our study today by giving ourselves a task for the heart. As Sunshine so beautifully said, we too are bound to become vanguards of the Christ. So let us draw ourselves as spirits that are already vibrating Christ like energy. Let us visualize ourselves past the pandemic, past the current moment, past the times of expiation and going into the world of regeneration, because the laundry process is there to regenerate ourselves. So let us draw ourselves as spirits emanating love in such a way that we are ready to become the vanguards of the Christ, that we are ready to be part of the world of regeneration. So let us get our crayons out, color pencils, draw ourselves and visualize what colors are we vibrating? What is the texture of our vibration? What is the perfume of our vibration? What is the melody of our vibration? We can even draw musical notes around ourselves if we would like. Let us do this exercise together so that we can boost God in us, because we are all children of God. And if you guys would like, you can even post your drawings right here on the comments for us so we can all boost one another in our ascent to goodness, because we are all bound to shine, right, Sunshine? You
yes.
are the
We
living proof
are.
of that. We are all bound to
We
shine.
all are. We're all shining.
Yes, exactly. So let us
And
visualize ourselves already shining, right?
yes. And
Yes.
Carol, then would you be willing to shine your light through a closing prayer?
Yes, I'm gonna sing a song as
Oh,
a
yes.
prayer for us, okay?
Okay,
Uh,
wonderful.
so if you guys would like, you can close your eyes. If not, you can keep them open. It doesn't matter. But we are going to sing in honor of the divine light that lives within all of us. So this is going to be our final closing prayer. This little light of ours, we are gonna let it shine. This little light of ours, we are gonna let it shine, shine, shine. This little light of ours, we are gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of yours, you are gonna let it shine. This little light of yours, you are gonna let it shine, shine, shine. This little light of yours, you are gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, shine, shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, and let it shine. This little light of God's, We are gonna let it shine. This little light of God. We are gonna let it shine, shine, shine. This little light of God. We are gonna let it shine, let it shine, and let it shine, and let it shine. So be
So be it.
it.
Thank you,
Let it
Carol.
shine. Thank you,
Thank you for the
Sunshine. You
blessing.
are always shining from coast to coast.
Yes, so are you.
Thank you for shining
Thank you.
through. Thank you,
And
dear
thank you,
friends.
friends, for joining us.
Yes, much love and much light to you. You are light in the world. Words of our Master Jesus Christ. Let
Yeah.
your light shine. Mwah! Big kiss,
Till next week.
big hug. Until next week, God willing, bright sunshine.
Yes.
Bye, friends.
Bye.